Screech by Taran NCT on AO3. Episode 15, Chapter 16. As everyone sat for dinner that night, Izuku was noticeably more quiet than usual. "Hey there, baby bird, you good?" Hizashi asked him. "Oh, yes?" Izuku blushed and looked up at Hizashi, who only looked at him over the rim of his glasses. Izuku sighed and started playing with his food. "It's just... Can I opt out of the sports festival?" Izuku glanced at Shouta. Shouta paused in eating at Izuku's question and raised an eyebrow. "It's just..." Izuku's blush deepened. "It's a bird thing." "Uh-huh. Care to elaborate?" Shouta questioned. "Oh," Hitoshi exclaimed. "I think I know. The Sports Fest is in the spring, and a lot of owls molt during the spring." He looks at Izuku. "Am I right?" Izuku buried his face in his hands and nodded. "Every year, the sports festival is in the middle of my molt. I can't really do much of anything during those 2 weeks." "Zuzu, bird, just because you won't have pretty wings for a few days doesn't mean you can't participate. You can run the event quirkless. That's what Toshi's most likely going to do." Hizashi encouraged. Izuku shook his head. "It's not just that my wings will be gross," he started. "My wings aren't constantly out like most Alvians, so I won't technically lose my feathers. I won't even be able to manifest my wings until the molt is done. To compensate for that, though, my body gives me a pretty severe fever and my back and joints ache the whole time. Also, I'll be itchy all over. I'll barely be able to sit still, and I'd be really cold and emotional." He looked at Shouta. "Did you never notice that Screech was never active around the time of the Sports Fest?" "I'm normally not patrolling around the time of the sports festival myself, so no, I never noticed." Shouta took another bite of dinner. "That does sound like a pretty big disadvantage." Izuku nodded. "I'll start soon, probably in about a week." "How have you dealt with it in the past?" Hisashi asked. "Since you have been pretending to be quirkless and all." "Well, it's the end of flu season, so I would just claim to have the flu. No one cared that the quirkless kid was out of class. And even though the flu doesn't normally take 2 weeks to get over, they would just assume that I had a weaker immune system and couldn't fight off the flu like everyone else could." Izuku shrugged. "It's probably the only time I actually didn't mind being thought of as quirkless." "Okay, well, we won't need to use that excuse again," that's all she said. "Nezu will excuse you from classes for the week you're molting, and Toshi can bring you your homework." Shouta nodded his agreement. "And you'll be excused from the sports festival after Nezu hears about your circumstances. He could stay home and watch the event from the living room." Izuku grinned. "Thank you, I love watching it every year." "I bet you could get Keigo to keep you company," Hitoshi added. "I mean, he probably molts too, so he'll be sympathetic to what you're going through. And he could have your input on any students he wants to scout for internships." Hisashi snorted. "Bold of you to assume he's not going to put in an offer for anyone other than Izu. He already told me he wants to put in an internship offer for me, and I turned him down." Izuku shook his head. "I want to go underground, and while I love Kei, he's about as subtle as a lilac-busted rooster. No, I'll only accept an offer from an underground hero, and Kei knows it." "Lilac-breasted rooster?" Hitoshi whispered, pulling out his phone to look up the bird. He whistled appropriately when he saw the images. That bird was a mix of purple, blues, greens, and yellows. Shouta let out a sigh. "I was already planning to put in an offer for both of you. I know your current silkscets, and no one else will be able to help Hitoshi with the fine-tuning of his captured scarf technique. And I'm not sure I can trust many people to have a formal vigilante around without attempting to arrest them." Izuku hummed thoughtfully. "Would I even be able to intern with another hero, though? What with the reform program and all?" "Technically, yes." Shouta hedged. "The hero would need to be informed of your enrollment in the reform program, and your supervisor would need to approve that placement, should they still be willing to mentor you. Izuku and Hitoshi gave Shouta deadpan looks, and then glanced at each other. He'll never approve of anyone else, will he? Izuku sighed. Nope, you're stuck with him. Hitoshi reverted. Izuku shrugged. Well, good thing he's the only one I'd actually wanted to intern with. The next day found Izuku at lunch, with Hitoshi, Shoto, and Momo all in the line to get their lunches from Lunch Rush. I think I'll just get a little bit of rice today, Izuku said. I'm not all that hungry. Hitoshi glances at him. You didn't eat much at breakfast, he said. Are you feeling all right? Izuku waves his hands in a so-so motion. I'm okay for now, but I'm definitely starting to not feel well. Momo put her wrist to Izuku's forehead. You don't have a fever, she stated. Not yet, no, Izuku verified, and then blushed. I'm gonna start molting in a few days, and I'm just starting to show pre-molting symptoms. It's nothing serious, honest. What's nothing serious? Kaminari had come up next to the four, with Jiro tagging along. Hey there, hot stuff. He winked at Izuku, and grinned at the boy's bright blush. Kaminari, Izuku squeaked. You can't just say things like that. Kaminari grinned unapologetically. Watch me. Anyways, what's nothing serious? Shoto spoke up. Izuku was telling us about how he was going to be sick for a few weeks. Not sick, Izuku interjected. Molting. You'll have fevers, body aches, and you won't be able to attend classes. That sounds like sick to me. Shouta deadpanned, as he collected his food tray and waited for the others to get theirs. Izuku mumbled something under his breath. No one could understand him. Fine, close enough, he admitted louder. But I'm still going to be training as much as I can up until my molt starts in full. Hitoshi grinned at the others. You guys want to know a secret about Izu? Izuku's eyes widened. He knew where Hitoshi was going with this, and started to shake his head as Hitoshi's grin turned evil. My birdie brother is a master-level quirk analyst, so if you need any help with your quirks, you should ask him. Toshi! Izuku covered his face with one hand, since he had his lunch tray in the other. Why do you do these things to me? The others laughed, and they had migrated to an empty table. Hitoshi, Shoto, and Kaminari on one side, while Momo, Jiro, and Izuku were on the other, with Kaminari directly across from Izuku. Kaminari leaned against the table and smiled at Izuku. Was that real? He asked. Are you really all that good with quirks? Well, I have been analyzing quirks since I could hold a crayon, so I think I'm better than the average person my age, but I wouldn't call myself master level. Izuku hedged. Well, master level or not, I'm getting desperate to figure out how to stop going stupid every time I use my quirk, so if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Are you sure? Izuku asked. I've been told often that my analysis is creepy, and once I get started, I have a tendency to just keep going. That's okay, I just want to know when I'm going wrong, so I could fix it before the sports fest. Izuku took a deep breath. You asked for it. Okay, so where you're going wrong is here. You're trying to make your quirk do something it's fundamentally not meant to do. Now, with most people, when they try to do something that their quirks says they can't, or that it's not meant to do, nothing happens. Example, if Momo tried to make a living thing, her quirk wouldn't work, and nothing would happen. That's not going to happen with you, Kaminari. Your quirk will still produce the electricity, but you're overconcentrating to try to make your quirk do what it's not meant to do. This is a real life, not a video game, and you're trying to direct your electricity as if you were a real-life Pikachu. Izuku took a bite of his lunch and shrugged. It's not entirely your fault, though, he continued. You probably grew up with stories of Zeus and Thor, Pokemon, and other video games, everything that show you lightning being used as something that can be directed. But that's not how your body and your quirk are built. You are built to be a current. The electricity isn't meant to travel very far from your body. Stop trying to force it. you'll short circuit because you keep trying to push out enough electricity to hit a target. But without some sort of guide, it's completely random where your electricity goes. Kaminari looks at him as though he'd held the answers to the universe. So, what you're saying is, I'm not a long-range fighter? Not unless you work on some serious support gear. No, you are a walking taser. And you should be focusing on close combat. Maybe look into some highly conductive metal knuckles or conductive wire lines in your costume that would help you direct your electricity to your limbs for more electrical kicks and punches. Maybe add a staff with veins of copper or silver, at least until you decide on if you really want to incorporate a staff into your final costume. Then you should go with gold. That would give you a bit more range while not having to shoot yourself out. Hitoshi nudged Kaminari. If you want, you could join the training with me and Izuku after class. When Izu's molt really starts, he's not going to be able to train with me. Kaminari's eyes sparkle as he looks at Izuku. Would that be okay with you? Sure. Shouta usually oversees our training, though, Izuku warned. Kaminari tilted his head. Shouta? Oh, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku clarified with a blush. Sorry, I've been calling him Shouta ever since I started living with him a few months ago. Hitoshi smirked. He'll be calling him Dad soon, though. Izuku smiled at that. I accidentally did this morning, he admitted. I was in the living room reading ahead in Lit when he came home from patrol. I don't know if he noticed or not. It was almost 3 a.m. and he started grunting and ruffling my hair and went to bed. Hitoshi snorted, and Shouta chuckled, but Kaminari looked at Izuku wide-eyed. You've been up since 3 a.m. and you're still so awake? What is your secret? Izuku blinked at him and tilted his head almost 90 degrees, so his ears were pressed to his shoulder. I'm an owl. I don't really sleep at night. I train after school, and then I go to sleep when I get home, wake up for dinner, then go back to sleep for as long as I can. I normally wake up around midnight or 1 a.m. and can't get back to sleep after that. Can I text you when my insomnia acts up? Kaminari asked. Normally, I just end up playing video games on my phone. Izuku shrugged. If you want to. Left, up, a hair to the right, right there. Izuku practically melted as Hizashi scratched the back in between his shoulder blades. Hizashi chuckled. I take it the molting started? Izuku shook his head. Still pre-molt, I can still bring out my wings for now, he said, manifesting his wings to prove it. Before Izuku could retract his wings, Hizashi ran his fingers through some of the feathers. They've lost their gloss, he murmured. Izuku nodded. Yeah, it's almost time. He put one of his wings closer so he could see the feathers closer. Probably tomorrow or the day after. Izuku retracted his wings and leaned against Hizashi. I hate molting, but my wings are so pretty right after, and sometimes they're even bigger than before. Izuku jolted away, searching for his lower back, and started itching like crazy. Hizashi laughed and started helping his scratch. So, the author added some pictures of the bird on the chapter, and dude, this bird doesn't look real. There's actual purple, there's green. Okay, so there's a dark green. There is a vibrant purple, I mean neon purple. There is an orangey yellow, a bright blue, like think not royal blue, but a little bit lighter than royal blue, and aqua blue, but it's still towards the purple area. There is a magenta. There is a cyan. There's so many colors, and obviously some look a little, there's one that has red, literal red. These birds are so colorful. How do they not, like, pop out like a sore thumb? Part 2. I'm 99% sure I'm going to make this a okay, trust me. I know that. It's in the tags. Okay. No, I was reading the author's note. But yeah, that bird is very... I also kind of forgot, Izuku is a bird, so he probably has bird tendencies. Do we think he likes shiny stuff? I don't know if owls like shiny stuff. I know crows really love shiny stuff, and some other type of birds love shiny stuff. But would Izuku love, shiny stuff as well? Also, if Izuku is an owl, right? Owls can be quite nocturnal, but also be, up at night and up in the daytime, because I'd be hearing the owls in my area be up 24 hours. Like, I swear to God, when the fuck do these fuckers sleep? Which also, Izuku's, sleep, the whole, training after school, then getting home, sleeping, waking up for dinner, going back to sleep till he can, and waking up around midnight. That sounds like a perfect sleeping schedule for me. Actually, that's the sleeping schedule I had in quarantine. So right as soon as classes would end, I would pass the fuck out, and then I would wake up late afternoon, right? So I would wake up midnight or 1 a.m., right? And then I would go around, do whatever I needed to during those, hours in the middle of the night. And then I would, have the whole Zoom classes and then go back to sleep and repeat. And it was wonderful. That type of sleeping schedule really worked for me. Like, I would literally just lay in my head and I would fall asleep. Even now, the times where I am not allowed to lay the fuck down on my bed is 5 and 4. Because I will fall the fuck asleep if I go and lay down at 4 or 5 of the afternoon. But past that, I could then go back to my bed, because then I'm allowed to be there, because I won't fall the fuck asleep. But if I'm on the bed, I will fucking fall asleep. I once caught myself falling asleep on my desk. So yeah, those type of sleeping schedules are what works best for me. And it's what really, okay, so I have sleeping problems. I can't sleep on a regular basis, right? I have sleeping pills. I literally have melatonin gummies. I have these herbs and this herb tea that is supposed to relax me so I could go to sleep. None of this shit works most of the time. I use it as a last precaution, especially the melatonin gummies, but they don't work 100% of the time, and it gets annoying because sometimes I check the time and it's like 5 and I'm like, I have been laying my head here for 3 hours and I can't fucking fall asleep, and it gets annoying. But that sleeping schedule that I just told you, the one that Izuku has, was the only sleeping schedule that worked for me, and to this day it is the only sleeping schedule that has worked. It is literally the only one that's ever worked for me, and it's annoying to know that it's one that, socially speaking, and let's say I get a job, will most likely not work. It will never work, considering certain jobs, and socially speaking, people think that's a really shitty sleep schedule, but for me, it worked. And I don't have that sleeping schedule because I do have a family, and they would think I'm insane if I'm literally awake for only the morning, and I mean like 1 a.m. morning, and then 10 morning, and then around 3 to 5 is when I go to sleep. They would very much be concerned. And yeah, anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.